Mr Barker, just the man. I'd like to discuss this week's menus with you.
Of course, Mrs Crocombe.
Now, as you know, we like to roast something every day.
Of course, I'm partial to a roast myself, but to be honest, my wife uses a clockwork bottle jack, so I doubt it'll hold a candle to yours, Mrs Crocombe. Still, it's better than a bit of string off a pot hook, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the thing to note is that we aren't changing the presentation, so we will need the heads and the feet on.
So you'll be after a good-looking game, then?
Exactly.
Well, once Mr Nichols and the other young gentlemen start their socialising while they're at it and all the hip flasks come out, I don't suppose you're going to want anything they've given both barrels to. Well, young Miss Braybrook is a decent shot, but it's not often she goes off with the shoot. So, well, if it's been a penny dreadful of a shoot, Mr Prentice, Sam and Alfred and I, we can go out afterwards and maybe bag you a few better looking ones. How's that? Oh. I know that presentation is the thing. I promise you won't even know they've been shot.
Alfred's new, isn't he?
New this year, but he's a Barker, my nephew. It's in the blood. And he's been brushing for us since he was little. But he's going to be loading for Lord de Vere this time, so he's going to have to keep up. De Vere is keen as mustard, even after he's got a few whiskies in him. Oh, and we've done a beautiful job with the partridge this year, so you can expect plenty of them this season.
Oh, well, the menu will be guided by what is shot. Although, being well, we could do with a couple of hares for hare soup, one of Mr Strutt's favourites, and a few more duck with apple sauce. Oh, and that pigeon pie went down well. Wood pigeon, please. And do you think we could have a few less rabbits? The lower servants are starting to complain.
I've got to keep them down, otherwise Mr Vert's going to be after me about why his garden's been stripped bare. But I have heard that the poorhouse down in town has had another bout of influenza, so I doubt they'd turn down a few extra rabbits. It's such a dreadful shame that the local harvests have been down again this year. Still, it's a good thing that Lord Braybrook can provide fresh meat to the poor and needy. There's plenty in want at the moment.
It is awful. And how is it affecting the gamekeepers, Mr Barker? Poaching is on the rise, I hear. Terrible business. The plague of the countryside. I know there are those in need, but do you think that's the only thing driving it?
Well, people are in need, but the needy get arms, don't they? And there's no cause to be going out poaching, breaking the law, or my fences for that matter, endangering his lordship's livestock and causing all kinds of damage. I mean, Lord Braybrook puts a good deal of money into estate management. It's no good taking the game after all of that time and effort's gone into raising the birds, is it?
Of course.
Not to mention that business last year. I mean, Mr Pryor's family are still in mourning, and Mr Prentice still has nightmares over it.
Oh, yes. I read about it in the newspapers. I didn't go to the court. What were the details again?
Well, it was Tom Prentice who saw it all happen. He's the one who had to stand up there in court and tell them all about it. So, Mr Prentice and Mr Pryor were out in the middle of the night looking for poachers. It was dark, it was late, it was about 3:30 in the morning, as that's when poachers are out. Now, Mr Prentice, he hears a gunshot go off, and he looks around and sees John Pryor isn't with him. So he goes off on his own to investigate. Now this lot were after hares, so they're down by the Hunter's Well plantation. And as Tom gets close, that's when he sees him. John's just sitting there on the ground, with blood all down his trousers and all down his gaiters. Well, there's a man standing over him with a battered old shotgun in his hands, and one of the hammers down. And he whips it up quick smart, and he shouts out, "Come any closer and I'll serve you the same." So, John Pryor calls out and says, "Go off for help." And that's exactly what Tom does, and he's quick when he wants to be. Anyway, by the time he gets back, John's lying there on the ground in a whole puddle of his blood, and he's dead and gone.
And did Mr Prentice see the man with the old shotgun?
He did, even though it was dark. It was William Wright. He's a regular poacher, the police know him, and they picked him up quick enough. He's not someone who's trying to look after his family. He makes a tidy profit out of poaching. And he'd run off to try and hide that gun of his, but he'd left plenty of evidence behind that they brought out in court. He dropped his hat, and he dropped a homemade ramrod that he'd made for that old gun of his. And just by poor John's blood, they found a button that had come off of Wright's waistcoat.
It doesn't sound like Mr Wright was the sharpest tool.
Well, he wasn't. And he was protecting others, actually. His brother and a friend who'd been out there brushing and poaching with him. Anyway, he was going to hang. And they appealed the sentence, didn't they? They said, oh, it had all been an accident. He'd just heard a noise and he'd shot off into the darkness. So they commuted his sentence to a lifetime of penal servitude.
Well, if it was an accident, then he didn't deserve to hang. But on the other hand, Mr Pryor is dead, and it sounds like he was a lifelong criminal. A harsh punishment should stop these things happening.
The rope's not going to stop them. Not when there's money to be made. And it's more likely to make them shoot at my keepers. And dead men tell no tales, and we can't go off reporting to the police.
Oh, well, let's hope we never see this terrible business again. I suppose the lure of free meat is too much for some.
Well, meat is expensive, but this is about making money off of something everyone wants. I mean, canned Australian meat is quite cheap. It doesn't come with the risk of killing somebody or a lifetime of prison sentence, does it? So I know which one I'd choose.
Well, yes. I suppose it's a good thing that we have worked hard all these years, Mr Barker, and haven't had to lead a life of crime.
I don't think it'd suit either of us, Mrs Crocombe. I can't imagine you in the dock. Well, not unless Marianne had burnt one of your tea cakes.
Oh, well, she's come close to it once or twice. But you should take care of yourself out at night chasing poachers, Mr Barker.
Will do. Maybe all those extra rabbits the servants are fed up with will make all the difference in the village.
Perhaps. Well, thank you very much for coming to see me, and please send my best to the rest of your family. Oh, and on your way out, help yourself to some of those Queen Drop biscuits. Sylvia's practising for the servants' table. They aren't one of Mary Ann's tea cakes.
Thank you, Mrs Crocombe.